Confidence isn't loud, it's not arrogance. It's not walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone else. True confidence is quiet. It's calm. It's the power to stand in the middle of chaos and not flinch. It's the look in someone's eyes when they know who they are, and nothing the world throws at them can shake that truth. That kind of confidence, dangerous confidence, doesn't come from affirmations or fake smiles. It's built, earned, forged in the fires of self-doubt, rejection, and failure. It's what happens when you stop chasing approval and start trusting your own judgment. When you stop trying to fit in and start standing out because you finally understand your value. This kind of confidence isn't gifted, it's constructed, brick by brick, decision by decision. It's the armor of the self-assured, the quiet weapon of those who no longer need validation to breathe. If you want to become dangerously confident, you have to learn to command your mind before it commands you. You have to face your fear, not suppress it, not run from it, but stare it down until it blinks first. Because real confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. And that's what this journey is about. Not to teach you to act confident, but to become confident, because once you master that, you become unstoppable. Chapter 1. The Origin of Fear. Confidence doesn't disappear because you were born without it. It fades because you learned to doubt yourself. When you were a child, you didn't hesitate. You spoke your truth. You ran toward what excited you. You believed you could do anything, because no one told you otherwise yet. Then, slowly, the world began to teach you fear. Every failure, every judgment, every rejection, they chipped away at that natural courage. You learned to hold back, to question yourself before speaking, to shrink when others stared. But here's the truth. The voice that tells you you're not enough isn't yours. It's a collection of echoes from people who projected their own insecurities onto you. Teachers, parents, peers. They weren't evil, just broken in their own ways. And unknowingly, they passed that brokenness down to you. Confidence dies the moment you start believing someone else's version of who you should be. And the longer you live by that script, the further you drift from your true self. But here's where the power begins: awareness. Because you cannot change what you refuse to confront. You cannot rise until you name what's been keeping you small. Every fear has a root, and if you pull it out, you reclaim your strength. The truth is, confidence isn't something you find. It's something you remember. It's been there all along, buried beneath layers of doubt, criticism, and comparison. And when you start peeling back those layers, you'll discover something profound. You were never broken. You were only conditioned to forget your power. Now the journey to dangerous confidence begins with a single act: stopping the war against yourself. You've spent years fighting your reflection, measuring your worth by outcomes, likes, or applause. But the moment you decide that your opinion of you matters most, everything changes. Because the confident person doesn't wait for permission, they don't beg to be seen. They create their own spotlight. Confidence starts not with achievement, but with acceptance. It's built when you look at your flaws and say, "I'm still enough." And once you accept yourself fully, the world loses its power to intimidate you. This is how dangerous confidence is born. Not from perfection, but from peace. Peace with who you are, peace with what you've overcome, peace with the fact that you don't need anyone's approval to move forward. Because the most dangerous person in any room isn't the loudest one. It's the one who knows exactly who they are and doesn't need to prove it. Chapter 2. The Mask of False Confidence. There's a kind of confidence you see everywhere today, loud, polished, perfectly curated. It lives on stages, in boardrooms, on screens. It looks powerful, but beneath the surface, it's fragile. It's a performance built on fear, fear of being unseen, unheard, unvalidated. That's the mask of false confidence. It's the act of pretending to be fearless while secretly praying no one sees the cracks. It's the influencer who needs the likes, the executive who needs control, the friend who dominates every conversation, not out of power, but insecurity. You've seen it. Maybe you've worn it. We all have at some point, because false confidence feels safer than vulnerability. It's a shield that says, if I act strong, no one will know how uncertain I feel inside. But here's the paradox. The more you wear the mask, the weaker you become. You start performing instead of living. You start chasing validation instead of purpose. And slowly, you forget who you were without the act. True confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it. Because real power is quiet. It doesn't rely on image. It radiates from identity. The person who is dangerously confident doesn't need to be seen. They know they exist, and that's enough. So why do so many of us trade authenticity for approval? Because the world rewards the mask. We live in a culture that praises appearances over essence. People applaud the bold, even if it's an act. They reward noise more than depth. But what they don't tell you is this: the applause you earn for pretending will vanish the moment you stop performing. And then what's left? Just you, exhausted, empty, unseen in the truest sense. Confidence built on validation is a prison disguised as freedom. You feel powerful, but only when others notice. You feel worthy, but only when you're winning. You feel strong, but only until the room goes quiet. Dangerous confidence doesn't depend on anyone's gaze. It thrives in silence. It grows when no one is watching. Because it comes from the simple truth: you know who you are, even when no one else believes it. To build that kind of confidence, you have to be willing to lose the mask. You have to stop performing strength and start building it. Stop chasing attention and start earning self-respect. There's a difference between being admired and being at peace. The world teaches you to chase the first. Wisdom teaches you to value the second. Confidence without peace is chaos, and chaos, no matter how impressive it looks, always collapses. When you strip away the noise, the titles, the makeup, the followers, the bravado, you're left with one question. Do you like the person you are when no one's looking? If that answer is yes, truly yes, then you are already dangerous. Because most people can't even stand to be alone with themselves. So stop chasing visibility. Start chasing clarity. Stop asking how to look confident. Ask how to become someone whose self-belief is unshakable, even in silence. Confidence isn't in the spotlight. It's in the shadows, in the moments when you choose to act with integrity instead of ego. It's in walking away from drama that once fed you. It's in saying no when every part of you wants to say yes just to be liked. And when you start doing that, when your peace matters more than your image, you'll notice something. People start paying attention differently. They can't explain it, but they feel it. You walk differently. You speak with intention. You stop over-explaining, because you no longer need to. That's the paradox of dangerous confidence. The moment you stop needing to prove it, everyone sees it. There's a quiet authority that grows inside you when your validation comes from within. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's knowing your worth doesn't rise or fall based on who stays or who leaves. You don't chase energy anymore. You attract it. And that shift is magnetic. When you no longer beg to be understood, you begin to be respected. When you stop forcing your presence, your absence begins to speak volumes. And that's the level of confidence that can't be faked. Because it's not a show. It's a state of being. Confidence built on performance dies with the spotlight. Confidence built on self-awareness grows in the dark. The person who learns to walk alone, speak truthfully, and move intentionally, that's someone the world can't control. That's someone the world can't manipulate. That's someone who is, without apology, dangerously confident. Chapter 3. The Discipline of Self-Respect. Confidence begins with one truth. You teach people how to treat you. And the classroom for that lesson isn't built in conversations or confrontations. It's built in your silence, in your standards, in what you allow and what you no longer entertain. See, most people think confidence is about being loud, assertive, outspoken. But real power doesn't need volume. It lives in quiet boundaries, the kind that don't need defending. It's in saying no without apology. It's in walking away from what doesn't align without seeking validation for doing so. Self-respect is not pride. It's not ego. It's the realization that peace is too expensive to trade for acceptance. That not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, your emotions. Confidence isn't something you build overnight. It's something you reinforce daily through the small decisions that define how much of yourself you're willing to give away. Every time you let someone cross a line and call it forgiveness, you're teaching them that your boundaries are negotiable. Every time you silence your truth to keep someone comfortable, you're showing them that your voice doesn't matter as much as their opinion. And every time you stay where your soul feels small, you're telling the world that your worth depends on someone else's comfort. But when you choose differently, when you decide to respect yourself enough to walk away, when you stop justifying your boundaries, when you stop begging to be understood, that's when something shifts. People start treating you differently. Because they sense it. They feel that silent authority, that quiet assurance that says, I know who I am and I'm not afraid to lose what's not aligned. Self-respect is discipline, not emotion. It's the backbone of dangerous confidence. It's what keeps you standing tall even when your voice shakes. And the irony is, the more you respect yourself, the less you need to prove your worth to anyone else. Because people who truly know their value don't argue for it. You can tell when someone has that energy. They don't rush, they don't chase, they don't compete. They move with purpose. They speak with clarity. And their presence alone commands respect, not because they demand it, but because they embody it. But this kind of strength comes with a price. It means saying goodbye to people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. It means losing relationships that thrived on your silence. It means becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. And that's hard, because most of us were raised to believe that being liked is more important than being respected. We were taught that kindness means saying yes, that compassion means tolerance, but self-respect doesn't kill kindness. It gives it direction. When you learn to respect yourself, your kindness becomes stronger, not weaker. It stops being people-pleasing and starts being purposeful. You give from abundance, not obligation. You love without losing yourself, because confidence without self-respect is an illusion, a fragile shell that crumbles the moment someone challenges it. The person who has mastered self-respect doesn't seek validation. They create value. They know that energy is currency. And they spend it wisely. So here's the truth. You cannot be dangerously confident if you keep tolerating what disrespects your soul. You cannot rise while holding hands with everything that keeps you small. And you cannot grow into your power while shrinking for people who fear it. There comes a moment, a defining one, when you realize that peace isn't found in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of boundaries. The kind that don't scream, but stand. It's in saying, I don't owe anyone access to me. It's in realizing, I am not hard to love. I am just not easy to manipulate. And once you internalize that, the whole world starts to shift around you. Because people who once took advantage of your kindness will start to feel uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because you finally stopped apologizing for existing. That's what self-respect does. It filters your world. It reveals who values you and who used you. It cleans the noise and brings clarity. You start to walk differently, talk differently, think differently. Because when you start respecting yourself, you stop living like you're replaceable. You stop moving like you need permission to take up space. And the beauty of that is simple. You stop chasing and start attracting. Because confidence rooted in self-respect has gravity. It draws in the right people and repels the wrong ones, effortlessly. Dangerous confidence isn't just about believing in yourself. It's about protecting yourself. Guarding your peace like it's sacred, because it is. So ask yourself, what are you allowing in your life right now that drains you? Who are you giving your energy to that doesn't deserve it? What habits are you justifying that are quietly disrespecting your potential? The moment you answer those questions honestly, you'll know exactly where to begin rebuilding. And when you do, you'll realize that dangerous confidence isn't a performance. It's a posture. It's the natural result of living a life that honors your worth. You won't need to shout it. You won't need to prove it. You'll just be it. Because self-respect is where real confidence begins and where all weakness ends. Chapter 4. The Power of Silence. Silence. It's not just the absence of noise. It's the presence of awareness. Most people fear it. They run from it. They fill it with distraction, with constant chatter, with the endless scroll of someone else's life. Because silence, true silence, forces you to face yourself. And that's where dangerous confidence is born. In the quiet. In the moments between words. In the space where no one is watching and no one is clapping. You see, confidence isn't built in the spotlight. It's forged in the shadows, in the long stretches of stillness where you learn to be at peace with your own company. That's what separates the loud from the powerful. The loud ones need attention. The powerful ones, they generate it. There's something magnetic about a person who can sit in silence without fidgeting, who doesn't need to fill every pause with words, who listens more than they speak. Because silence is control. It's discipline. It's the ability to stay composed while the world around you loses balance. When you master silence, you stop reacting emotionally to everything. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve your explanation. You stop defending your choices to those who were never invested in your growth. You become unshakable. Think about it. The most dangerous people in any room are rarely the ones talking. They're the ones observing, calculating, listening. Their silence isn't weakness, it's power held in reserve. They don't need to prove anything. They already know who they are. That's the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is emotional. It's impulsive, raw, loud. Response is intentional, quiet, sharp, precise. The truly confident know when to speak and when silence speaks louder. Because silence, it carries weight. It makes people lean in. It creates tension. It demands respect. The insecure crave validation through words. The confident create mystery through restraint. When you're comfortable in silence, you stop fearing misunderstanding because you've learned that truth doesn't need to shout to be real. It just needs time. But silence isn't only about control, it's also about clarity. When the world goes quiet, your mind starts to reveal what it's been hiding behind all that noise. Your real fears, your real desires, your real motives. It's uncomfortable at first, because silence exposes what distraction has been protecting you from. But it's also healing. It teaches you to listen, not to others, but to yourself. To that voice beneath the surface that already knows what's right for you. The one you keep ignoring because it whispers instead of yells. You begin to realize that every answer you've been chasing outside of yourself was always waiting inside of you. But you were too loud to hear it. Silence is not emptiness. It's information. It's the space where wisdom lives. That's why confident people aren't impulsive. They pause. They listen. They watch. Because every pause is a chance to choose, not just react. Imagine this. You're in a room where everyone is arguing. Voices raised, emotions high. The person who stays quiet the longest, who studies, who observes before speaking, that's the one everyone eventually listens to. Because by the time they speak, they've seen everything. That's what silence gives you, perspective. And perspective gives you power. But the power of silence doesn't just shape how you handle others, it shapes how you handle yourself. When you start practicing silence, you begin to hear the tone of your own thoughts. You start noticing the way you talk to yourself. You start catching the lies your fear keeps feeding you, and slowly you begin to rewrite them. In silence, you find your strength. You learn patience. You develop endurance. You start to realize that not every emotion deserves expression, and not every opinion deserves response. That's dangerous confidence, knowing you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to, knowing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. But silence isn't passive, it's active restraint. It's the pause before the decision, the inhale before the strike. It's what allows your actions to carry precision instead of chaos. When you move from silence, every step feels deliberate. Every word feels intentional. Every choice feels anchored, because you've taken the time to listen before acting. And people can feel that. They can sense when someone's energy is grounded. They can tell when your silence is not fear but focus, when it's not hesitation but control. In a world that constantly shouts, the one who whispers becomes unforgettable. So learn to love silence, guard it, protect it, because it's not just the absence of noise, it's the foundation of mastery. When you sit alone in your thoughts long enough, something incredible happens. You stop seeking validation and start trusting your intuition. You stop chasing attention and start creating impact. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. The loudest confidence isn't heard, it's felt. It's in the person who doesn't need to explain, who doesn't need to rush, who's content being misunderstood because they know truth doesn't require defense. That's the kind of confidence that unnerves people. Because silence, real silence, exposes noise. It reveals who's grounded and who's bluffing, who's aligned and who's lost. So the next time you find yourself in a moment of silence, don't rush to fill it. Breathe it in. Let it teach you. Let it speak to you. Because in that space, something powerful is happening. You're evolving, you're sharpening, you're mastering the most dangerous form of confidence, the kind that doesn't shout for attention but draws it naturally. That's what silence does. It amplifies your presence without saying a word, and when you've learned to master that, when your calm speaks louder than chaos, you'll understand something most never do. That true confidence isn't in the noise you make, it's in the peace you keep. Chapter 5. The confidence of consistency. Confidence isn't lightning. It's not a sudden spark that flashes once and disappears into the dark. It's fire, built slowly, fed daily, nurtured with intention until it becomes something no storm can extinguish. People chase confidence like it's a moment, a surge, a boost, a rush of adrenaline before a big event. But the truth is, real confidence isn't found in moments of inspiration. It's earned in the ordinary, through the quiet, relentless act of showing up. Consistency, that's the secret. The discipline to keep moving even when the excitement is gone, even when no one's watching, even when it feels like nothing's changing, because confidence doesn't come from success, it comes from evidence. The proof you give yourself every single day that you can be trusted to follow through. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you're building a foundation. Every time you wake up and push through the resistance, you're reinforcing your belief that you can handle hard things. And that belief, that quiet internal proof, is where true confidence lives. Most people overestimate what they can do once and underestimate what they can do daily. They look for massive wins, grand breakthroughs, dramatic transformations. But real growth, lasting confidence, it's built one repetition at a time. The truth, consistency is boring. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagram-worthy. It's the grind that happens in silence while the world is distracted by noise. It's showing up when motivation has left the room. It's choosing progress over perfection. And that's why so few people ever become dangerously confident. Because they can't stand the stillness of the process. They want results without repetition. They want mastery without monotony. But you can't skip the middle and expect to stand tall at the end. Confidence is the side effect of endurance. Every repetition builds memory, not just in your muscles, but in your mind. Every small victory tells your brain, I can rely on me. That's how you win the war before it starts. By training yourself to show up, no matter the weather. Think about a musician. The stage performance lasts minutes, but the hours of practice behind it are endless. The confidence they display under the lights is simply the shadow of their consistency in private. It's the same in life. The person who walks into a room with calm assurance didn't just wake up like that. They've trained themselves, emotionally, mentally, physically, to operate from stability, not mood. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about rhythm. Even when you miss a beat, you keep the melody going. You learn to flow through mistakes instead of stopping at them. Because when you show up often enough, the fear that once held you back loses its grip. You start realizing that you don't need to feel ready to act. You just need to begin. That's where consistency becomes your armor. When you've practiced persistence, failure no longer breaks you, it refines you. You've failed before and you survived. You've stumbled before and you stood again. You've doubted before and yet here you are. That's the quiet power of repetition. It rewires the story in your head, and slowly, your identity shifts. You stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, and start believing, I am disciplined. You stop saying, I hope I can do this, and start knowing, I will. Confidence, you see, isn't built by what you do once. It's built by what you do again and again until it becomes who you are. But consistency doesn't only build strength, it builds credibility, especially with yourself. The greatest betrayal is not breaking a promise to others. It's breaking the ones you make to yourself. Because every time you say you'll do something and don't, a small piece of your belief in yourself erodes. And without that belief, no amount of external validation can fill the void. So how do you rebuild it? By doing the small things, relentlessly. Wake up on time, keep the word you gave yourself, finish what you start, speak when you mean it, stay when it's hard. Every act of follow-through is a brick in the wall of self-trust. And when that wall stands tall, no opinion, rejection, or setback can knock it down. That's what makes consistency so powerful. It's a mirror that reflects your integrity back to you. It says, you can count on you. And when you can count on yourself, you stop chasing approval. You stop needing others to remind you of your worth. You become stable, unshaken by temporary doubt, untouched by fleeting praise. Confidence built on external validation is fragile. Confidence built on internal consistency is unbreakable. Because it doesn't depend on how people see you. It depends on what you've proven to yourself. But here's the paradox. The more consistent you become, the less you'll need to announce it. Your energy changes, your presence speaks louder than your words. People can feel it, that quiet certainty that says, I've done the work. You won't need to say you're confident, you'll simply move like someone who is. That's the transformation consistency brings. It turns doubt into momentum, fear into focus, and hesitation into instinct. So, if you want to be dangerously confident, stop waiting for inspiration. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start showing up, again and again and again. Because every time you do, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. And those votes add up. They shape you, they harden you, they strengthen your will until action is no longer effort. It's identity. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your consistency. And the ones who win, truly win, aren't the ones who work the hardest ones. They're the ones who refuse to stop, even when it gets hard. Especially when it gets hard. So keep showing up. Keep stacking small victories. Keep proving to yourself that you can trust your own word. Because that's where the real power lives. Not in the moment you decide, but in the days you continue. And when consistency becomes your default setting, when showing up is no longer a question but a reflex, you'll carry a confidence that can't be shaken. Because it was built, not borrowed. That's the quiet confidence that conquers every inner battle. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself, because it's already undeniable. Chapter 6. The Psychology of Presence. It's one of those words that people throw around like it's simple. But in truth, it's one of the rarest and most misunderstood human powers. Presence is not just being physically in the room, it's being awake in it. It's the ability to silence the chaos in your head long enough to truly be here. With yourself, with others, with the moment that's unfolding right now. And yet, in a world full of noise, presence has become almost extinct. We live distracted, pulled by 1,000 invisible strings, notifications, thoughts, comparisons, fears, unfinished stories looping in our minds. We scroll more than we feel. We react more than we think. We exist more than we live. But here's the truth, you can't be confident if you're not present. Because confidence demands awareness of yourself, your body, your tone, your surroundings. Presence is the foundation upon which unshakable self-control is built. When you're fully present, you're grounded. You're not haunted by what happened yesterday or anxious about what's coming tomorrow. You're in control of now, and now is the only time power ever truly exists. Think about it. Every moment of influence, every connection, every act of leadership, it happens in the present. And the more present you are, the more your energy becomes undeniable. People can feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense it. That calm, unhurried, unshakable certainty. That feeling that you're not racing to prove yourself or scrambling to impress. You're simply there, whole, focused. Intentional, presence is what separates the powerful from the loud, the grounded from the reactive, the ones who lead from the ones who chase attention. And the secret to presence, it's not performance, it's awareness. Awareness of your breathing, awareness of your thoughts, not as commands but as passing clouds. Awareness of your energy, how it moves, how it feels, how it affects others. Presence is not silence, It's stillness within noise. It's finding the eye of the storm and choosing to live there. Most people live like leaves in the wind, tossed by every emotion, every opinion, every external shift. But the ones with presence, they are the tree, rooted, grounded, unmoved, even as the world swirls around them. Confidence flows naturally from that rootedness. When you're grounded, you're not easily thrown off balance. You listen better. You speak with intention. You make people feel seen, not because you're performing, but because you're actually there. Presence is a form of respect, for the moment, for the other person, for yourself. And in every interaction, people can feel it instantly. You know that person who, when they talk to you, makes you feel like you're the only one in the room. That's not charisma. That's presence. They're not thinking about how they look. They're not waiting to speak. They're here, fully, listening, attuned. And that level of attention, that kind of energy, is magnetic. Presence doesn't just make people respect you, it makes them trust you. Because when you're truly present, your words carry weight. You don't need to fill the silence. Your silence becomes power. And when you speak, it's deliberate, measured, calm. It doesn't come from the need to be right, it comes from the strength of knowing you don't have to prove anything. That's the psychology of presence. It quiets the mind so that your essence, your real, authentic energy, can finally speak. But presence doesn't just happen. It's trained, and it starts with reclaiming your attention. Every day, your mind is hijacked by screens, by messages, by memories, by noise. Each notification chips away at your focus, and each time you give in, you weaken your ability to be here. So, to build presence, you must retrain your focus like a muscle. Start with your breathing. Notice the air entering your lungs. Notice the pause before you exhale. Let yourself slow down, then expand that awareness outward. Feel the temperature of the room, the weight of your body on the chair, the rhythm of your heartbeat. This is not meditation, it's mastery. Because presence is not found in escaping life. It's found in returning to it. And once you learn to stay present with yourself, you'll find it easier to stay present with others. In conversation, practice listening without preparation. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. Their minds are already crafting an answer before the other person finishes speaking. But when you quiet that urge, when you give someone your full, undivided attention, you create space. The kind of space where truth can breathe. That's where connection begins. And connection is what gives your confidence a human heartbeat. Because confidence without empathy is arrogance, and empathy without presence is impossible. When you can combine calm awareness with genuine attention, you become the kind of person people open up to. Not because you demand it, but because they feel safe in your presence. You stop trying to dominate conversations and start guiding them. You stop rushing to speak and start letting silence do the heavy lifting. And ironically, that's when people start listening to you. Because the world is starving for presence. We live in a time where everyone's talking, but no one's really hearing. Everyone's showing, but no one's really seeing. So when you show up, calm, grounded, and focused, you stand out instantly. You don't need to be louder. You just need to be clearer. And clarity comes from presence. Presence allows you to read the room, not just the words, but the energy. You start noticing things most people miss. The shift in tone, the hesitation, the emotion behind the expression. That awareness gives you an edge, in business, in relationships, in life. Because while others react impulsively, you respond intentionally. While they rush, you observe. While they speak, you listen. And in that stillness, you gain control. Presence is power. It's the difference between influence and noise, between connection, emotion, and chaos. It's the force that anchors your confidence to something real. So the next time you walk into a room, don't worry about what to say. Worry about being there. Your words mean more when your energy is anchored. Your actions mean more when your attention is whole. Because when you're fully present, you don't have to convince anyone of your power. They can feel it. And that, more than charisma, more than confidence, more than charm, is what makes you unforgettable. Chapter 7. The Silent Confidence of Body Language. Before you ever say a word, the world has already heard you. Before your mouth opens, your body speaks, in volume, in tone, in rhythm. And that language, the one you never consciously learned, often determines how the world responds to you more than your actual words ever will. Body language is your first conversation. It's the invisible dialogue between who you are and what you show. It's the art of saying everything without speaking at all. When you walk into a room, you broadcast energy. People feel it instantly, a frequency that tells them whether to respect you, ignore you, or trust you. And the truth is, you can't fake it. You can dress the part, you can rehearse your words. But energy doesn't lie. Confidence, when real, radiates through your posture, your gaze, your stillness. It's quiet but undeniable. It's not the chest-out arrogance of someone trying to impress, but the grounded presence of someone who knows who they are. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think it's about dominance, taking up space, standing tall, controlling the room. But real confidence isn't loud. It's calm, controlled, effortless. It's in the way you breathe before you speak. It's in the way your eyes meet someone else's, steady, not searching for approval. It's in how you stand, rooted yet relaxed. It's in how you move, deliberate, unhurried, certain. You don't need to overperform to prove your worth. Your energy should speak for you. Because your body always tells the truth, even when your words don't. If your posture collapses under self-doubt, your message loses weight. If your gestures fight your emotions, people feel the dissonance before they understand it. The body reveals what the mouth hides, so if you want to communicate powerfully, you must learn to align the two. Body and voice, energy and intention. Start with stillness. Stillness is not weakness, it's command. The most confident people in any room aren't those who move the most. They're the ones who don't need to. They occupy space fully, not by stretching wider, but by existing completely in the space they already have. That's presence. That's power. When you move, do it with purpose. When you gesture, let it be intentional. When you stand, feel the ground beneath your feet. Don't shift nervously, don't fidget, don't fill silence with noise. Stillness signals control. Control commands respect, but don't confuse stillness with stiffness. Confidence is fluid, it breathes. It lives in the natural rhythm of your movements, the openness of your posture, the steadiness of your tone. Your body should say, I belong here. Not, I'm trying to fit in. Not, I hope you like me. Confidence is never a plea, it's a quiet statement. And that statement begins with awareness. Awareness of how you move. Awareness of how you occupy space. Awareness of how you transmit your energy. If you walk into a room with your head down, you've already told the world you don't believe you belong there. If you speak while folded into yourself, shoulders slumped, voice thin, you've already lost authority before finishing your sentence. But when you walk in, upright, calm, connected, people feel it. Not because you demand attention, but because your very presence commands it. The paradox of confident body language is this. It's less about performance, more about permission. You're giving yourself permission to be seen. That's what most people fear. Not failure, not judgment, visibility. To be seen is to be vulnerable. To stand tall is to expose yourself. That's why insecurity hides in slouching, in crossed arms, in restless movement. But confidence, it welcomes visibility. It says, I can stand here as I am, and I'm okay with that. And when your body accepts your worth, your words finally start to carry it. Eye contact, for example, isn't just about dominance, it's about connection. It's about seeing and being seen. When you look someone in the eye, not with aggression, but with calm steadiness, you transmit certainty. You're saying, I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm listening. It's amazing how much power you hold in a single gaze. Too little eye contact, and you seem unsure. Too much, and you cross into intimidation. But balanced, intentional eye contact communicates self-control. And that's what dangerous confidence really is. Self-control disguised as ease. The same goes for your voice. Your tone, your pace, your pauses, they're all part of your body language. When you speak too quickly, it tells the world your thoughts are racing. When you fill every silence, it tells them you fear stillness. But when you pause, even briefly, it signals that you trust your own rhythm. that you don't need to rush to be heard. Your body becomes the punctuation of your message. Confidence lives in your pauses, in the moments between your words, in the silence that follows your statement, the silence where others wait for your next move. That's the art of communication most people miss. They focus on what to say, not how to exist while saying it. Presence without body control is fragile. Confidence without awareness is hollow. If your words are strong but your posture collapses, your power dissolves. So train your body to reflect your intention. When you stand, plant your feet like you belong. When you speak, slow your breath before the first word. When you listen, lean in slightly. Not to invade, but to engage. These small, deliberate cues don't just convince others, they convince you. Your physiology shapes your psychology. If you act small, you start to think small. If you stand tall, your brain follows suit. That's not self-help theory, it's neuroscience. Your body tells your mind who you are, and your mind believes it. So when you embody confidence long enough, you stop pretending. You start becoming. That's the hidden power of body language. It's not manipulation, it's integration, bringing your inner strength into visible form. And once your body and your beliefs are aligned, you become someone who doesn't need to speak to be understood. People will feel your confidence before you introduce yourself. They'll sense your control before you give a command. They'll trust your calm before you make a case. Because your energy tells the truth before your voice ever does. So walk into every room with that quiet certainty. Let your posture be your presence. Let your stillness be your statement. Let your body say, I am here and I am enough. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You don't need to overcompensate to be respected. You just need to be aligned. When your body and your belief move as one, your confidence stops being something you perform. It becomes something you are, and that's when people don't just hear you, they feel you. Chapter 8. Mastering the Inner Dialogue. There's a voice that speaks when no one else is around. You know it well. It's the voice that whispers when you look in the mirror, the one that questions your worth when you fall short, the one that mocks your ambition when the world feels too heavy. That voice, the inner dialogue, is both your best ally and your most dangerous enemy. Because it never stops talking. It narrates your entire life, every win, every failure, every hesitation. And yet, most people never learn how to talk back to it. They let it run wild. They let it define them. They mistake the voice in their head for the truth about their life. But the truth is this: you are not the voice. You are the one who listens to it. Confidence doesn't begin with external victories. It begins in that silent mental arena, the private space between your ears where belief and doubt collide. That's where every battle of confidence is won or lost. If your mind tells you that you're not enough, no amount of compliments will convince you otherwise. If your thoughts constantly remind you of your mistakes, no success will ever feel like it belongs to you. That's the cruelty of an undisciplined mind. It becomes your prison guard. But when you master that inner voice, when you learn to make it your ally, you become unstoppable. Because self-control isn't just about resisting temptation, it's about mastering thought. And that mastery begins with awareness. You can't fix what you refuse to observe. So listen to the words you feed yourself every day. When you fail, what's the first thing you tell yourself? When you're afraid, what story plays in your mind? When you hesitate, whose voice are you actually hearing? Sometimes it's not even yours. It's the echo of a parent who doubted you, a teacher who underestimated you, a moment from childhood that left a scar you mistook for your identity. You carry those echoes into adulthood. They become the background noise of your confidence, and unless you face them, they'll keep dictating your choices. The first step to mastering your inner dialogue is to catch it in the act. Don't argue with it, just notice. Every insult, every I can't, every subtle, maybe I'm not ready. Observe it like a script someone else wrote for you, because once you see it, clearly, you can choose whether to keep reading it or to rewrite it. And rewriting it doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means speaking to yourself with truth and power, not fear and shame. When you say, I failed, stop there. Don't add, because I'm not good enough. When you say, I'm nervous, don't add, so I'll probably mess this up. Your inner dialogue defines the emotional tone of your life. So speak to yourself like someone worth believing in. It sounds simple, but it's not, because the mind has inertia. It loves familiar pain. It loves the comfort of repetition, even when that repetition destroys you. But here's the beauty: your mind listens to you. It always has. You just forgot you were in charge. If you tell yourself, "I can handle this," your brain begins to align your physiology to make it true. Your shoulders square up, your breath slows, your heartbeat steadies. The dialogue in your head becomes the conductor of your body, and your body in turn reinforces the dialogue. It's a cycle, a feedback loop, that can either destroy or empower you. That's why confident people seem magnetic. It's not because their lives are easier, it's because they've trained the voice in their head to work for them, not against them. They've learned to turn fear into focus, doubt into direction, pain into purpose. And they've learned to pause between the thought and the reaction, to create space for choice. That's where control lives, in the pause. Before you lash out, before you give up, before you shrink yourself. In that breath, that small, quiet space, you have the power to rewrite the script. You can choose to respond differently. You can choose a thought that strengthens you instead of breaking you. You can choose to be your own ally instead of your own enemy. Self-talk isn't just mental chatter, it's psychological conditioning. You are programming your subconscious every single day, through repetition, tone, and emotion. If you repeat, "I'm not ready," your brain starts filtering out opportunities. If you repeat, "I'm unlucky," your attention gravitates toward loss. But if you repeat, "I'm learning," "I'm capable," "I adapt," your mind begins building evidence to support that belief. Your brain doesn't care if your words are true or false. It only cares if they're repeated. So what are you rehearsing in your mind every day? A story of defeat or a declaration of strength? You become fluent in whatever language your mind hears most often. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not confident," you're practicing insecurity. If you say, "I'm becoming more confident," you're practicing evolution. Confidence isn't a switch. It's a sentence. It's something you speak into being. One word, one thought at a time. Think about how often you've stood in your own way. Not because others doubted you, but because your own thoughts did. Every time you said, "I can't," you weren't predicting the future. You were programming it. That's the dangerous thing about internal dialogue. It's prophetic. Your words become your world. Your beliefs become your boundaries. And if you want to break those boundaries, you must change the language that built them. When you fail, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" When you fear, instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I'm learning how to do this." When you feel small, remind yourself, "This feeling will pass, but my potential won't." Confidence grows when compassion replaces criticism. When your inner voice stops being your bully and becomes your coach. It's not about lying to yourself, it's about leading yourself. Leadership starts within. And your inner dialogue is your first follower. It will go where you guide it, whether that's towards strength or surrender. Here's the truth: every person you admire, every confident speaker, leader, creator, has had to face that same internal noise. The difference is, they stopped running from it. They faced it. And they learned to turn it into music instead of static. They replaced self-doubt with self-direction. And they realized that mastering the mind isn't about silencing every negative thought. It's about speaking louder in the language of belief. When you do that, when your mind becomes a mirror of strength instead of fear, everything else begins to align. Your posture changes, your tone deepens, your energy becomes magnetic. You stop begging the world to see your worth because you finally see it yourself. And in that silence, confidence is born. Not the loud, performative kind, but the kind that stands quietly in a storm and says, "I know who I am." That's the voice that can't be shaken. That's the power you carry once you learn to master your inner dialogue. Chapter 9. Fear, Risk, and the Edge of Growth. Fear. It's the shadow that walks beside ambition. It's the voice that whispers when you're about to step forward, "Are you sure?" It's the chill that creeps into your chest right before something extraordinary happens. Most people spend their entire lives running from it, disguising fear as logic, calling it being realistic, or labeling it timing. But the truth is simple. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the threshold, every version of you that exists beyond this moment. The bolder you, the wiser you, the more fulfilled you, lives on the other side of fear. But to reach it, you have to walk straight through that invisible wall. The one your mind built from every past failure, every rejection, every moment you were told you couldn't. Confidence doesn't grow in comfort. It's born where comfort ends. The confident aren't fearless. They've simply learned the art of walking with fear in their pocket and still moving forward. They've learned to interpret the trembling hands, the racing heart, the voice of uncertainty, not as warnings, but as proof they're exactly where they should be. That's what separates the ones who grow from the ones who stay stuck. Not luck, not talent, not even timing, but the willingness to face discomfort without surrendering to it. Fear is a compass. It points to what matters. If you're afraid to speak, it's because your voice carries power. If you're afraid to fail, it's because your dream carries weight. If you're afraid to be seen, it's because deep down, you know you were born to stand out. So many people think courage means being loud, bold, and brash. But courage often looks like stillness, like someone quietly deciding, I'm doing this anyway. That's how confidence is built, not in grand declarations, but in small moments of defiance against your own hesitation. When you move despite fear, you start to rewire your mind. Your brain learns a new truth. Fear doesn't mean stop, it means grow. And with every repetition, the hesitation fades. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop feeling fear entirely, you've stopped growing. Because fear and expansion are twins. They always arrive together. You see, your mind is ancient. It was built to protect, not to progress. It would rather keep you safely miserable than dangerously alive. Every time you reach for something new, a dream, a relationship, a risk, your brain floods you with doubt, because to it, change means danger. It doesn't care if the old version of you was unhappy. It only cares that it survived. That's why stepping into growth feels like walking into darkness. Because your brain can't yet prove it's safe. But confidence is the light you carry into that unknown. The steady flame that says, I'll find my way as I go. And the more you walk into the dark, the less it scares you. Think back to the first time you tried something that terrified you. Maybe it was speaking in front of people, starting a business, walking away from someone you once thought you couldn't live without. You were shaking, uncertain, but you did it anyway. And after it was done, you didn't die. The world didn't end. You survived. That moment, that single act of survival, became evidence. Evidence that you can handle fear. Evidence that you can do hard things. That's what confidence truly is, accumulated evidence of your own resilience. Every time you move through fear, you earn another piece of proof that you can trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, the world starts to feel different, not easier, just more navigable. Because the secret isn't to eliminate fear, it's to stop interpreting it as failure. Fear doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're awake. When fear shows up, it's saying you're about to evolve. The question is whether you'll listen or retreat. There's a quiet power in standing at the edge of something new. A place where the air feels heavier, the silence sharper. That's the border between who you've been and who you're becoming. Most people freeze there. They stare into the uncertainty and back away, not realizing that the only way out is through. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every rebirth begins in that place. The discomfort, the tension, the not knowing. It's not courage if it doesn't scare you. It's not confidence if it doesn't cost you something. Growth demands risk. It asks for your old comfort in exchange for your future potential. And it's not a one-time exchange. Every level of life demands a deeper surrender, to fear, to uncertainty, to the unknown. But here's the part most people never learn. Fear is not a wall, it's a doorway. It looks solid until you walk through it. And when you do, you realize it was made of air all along. The key is to move before you feel ready. Because readiness is a myth. It's the mind's last excuse to delay transformation. No one ever feels ready. They simply decide that fear won't make their choices for them anymore. You can plan, you can prepare, but there comes a moment where all that's left is to leap, and the leap is what creates the wings. The moment you step into fear, your body and mind rise to meet the challenge. The universe doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards motion, and motion creates momentum. That's the pulse of confidence, movement. You don't become confident by thinking about being brave. You become confident by doing the thing scared, by proving again and again that fear cannot dictate your destiny. When you start viewing fear as fuel, as something that can propel instead of paralyze you, you unlock an entirely new relationship with yourself. You stop avoiding challenge and start seeking it, because you know that every uncomfortable step forward carries a reward far greater than the comfort you left behind. The irony of life is this: the safest path often leads to the deepest regret. You don't regret the risks you took, you regret the ones you didn't. The moments you hesitated when your heart said go. The dreams you delayed waiting for the perfect time. Confidence is built in motion, not in meditation. So go. Speak when your voice trembles, try when your hands shake. Begin when your mind says, "I'm not ready." Because confidence isn't waiting for fear to disappear. It's learning to move while afraid. And one day you'll look back and realize that every version of you that you once feared becoming was just another layer of strength waiting to be revealed. That's the paradox of confidence. The more fear you face, the less power it has. Until one day you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start whispering, "What if I fly?" And that's when you cross the edge of growth, the line between the life you've lived and the one you've always imagined. Chapter 10. Becoming unshakable. There comes a moment when confidence stops being a performance. When it no longer needs the mirror, the validation, the applause. When it becomes something deeper, quieter, unshakable. That's when you realize the goal was never to be seen as powerful. It was to feel powerful, even when no one is watching. True confidence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout or posture. It breathes. It's the calm heartbeat beneath the chaos. The stillness in the storm. You see, most people chase confidence the way they chase attention, like something external, something earned through approval or success. But the truth is, unshakable confidence isn't something you build. It's something you uncover. It's already within you, buried under years of doubt, comparison, and fear. Every setback, every failure, every heartbreak was never meant to destroy you. They were chisels, carving away the false identities you clung to. The version of you that thought confidence came from being perfect, or being accepted. Becoming unshakable means understanding that loss, rejection, and uncertainty aren't evidence of weakness. They're proof of life. Proof that you've stepped outside the shallow end of comfort and into the deep waters where real growth happens. When you stop resisting discomfort, you start reclaiming your power. Because power isn't found in control, it's found in surrender, in knowing that no matter what happens, you'll adapt, you'll rise, you'll rebuild. That's the quiet secret of unshakable people. They don't need the world to go their way. They've already made peace with the possibility that it won't. Confidence that depends on circumstance is fragile. Confidence that's rooted in self-trust, that's eternal. The unshakable ones don't chase security. They create it inside themselves. They understand that confidence isn't about eliminating fear, but mastering your response to it. Because life will test you, again and again. It will shake the ground beneath your feet just to see if you remember who you are. And in those moments, when everything feels uncertain, when everything you planned starts to crumble, that's when your inner strength either collapses or solidifies. The unshakable don't panic. They pause, they breathe, they remember that storms pass, but what remains after the storm is who you truly are. Confidence doesn't mean you never fall apart, it means you know how to put yourself back together, differently but stronger. There's a strange beauty in breaking, because when the old self shatters, the cracks let the light in. Every wound becomes an opening, every scar becomes a map of survival. When you face the worst, you stop fearing what's next. That's what makes people dangerous. Not arrogance, but peace. The kind of peace that says, "I've been to the edge before, and I'm still here." Unshakable confidence isn't loud, it's grounded. It's not about walking into a room and demanding attention. It's walking into a room and knowing you don't need it. It's a stillness that others can feel, a quiet authority that says, I know who I am. And that's something no one can fake. There's a certain aura to people who've done the inner work, who've faced their fears, confronted their insecurities, and learned to stand alone. They don't compete, because they understand that energy spent proving yourself is energy stolen from becoming yourself. The unshakable don't rush, they move with intention. They understand that patience is not weakness, it's power under control, because once you master your emotions, you become untouchable. No insult can rattle you, no setback can derail you, no rejection can define you. Why? Because you no longer derive your worth from things outside yourself. Confidence rooted in appearance, money, success, or status will always be fragile. But confidence rooted in self-awareness, that's indestructible. When you know your strengths and accept your flaws, when you've made peace with both your light and your shadow, nothing can be used against you. The world loses its leverage. Becoming unshakable isn't about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally free. You feel everything, but you're not controlled by anything. You no longer react to everything that pokes at your ego. You choose your battles, you protect your energy. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because confidence isn't about winning every argument, it's about realizing you don't need to have one. It's the power to walk away, not out of pride, but out of peace. It's the maturity to understand that not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, your mind. Unshakable people don't chase validation. They create direction. They don't wait for the right moment. They decide it's the right moment. They don't obsess over who's watching. They focus on who they're becoming. And that's the quiet revolution happening inside you. The day you stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be authentic. Because authenticity, raw, real, unapologetic, is the foundation of confidence. The more you accept yourself, the less approval you need. The less approval you need, the freer you become. You stop needing to prove you're enough because you know you are. Not because someone told you, not because you succeeded, but because you decided. And that's what makes you dangerous. In the best way possible, you become the kind of person who can stand alone and still radiate presence. The kind of person who moves through chaos like it's choreography. The kind of person who doesn't need to control life because they trust themselves to handle whatever comes. That's the essence of being unshakable, not invincibility, but adaptability. It's knowing that even if you fall, you'll rise again. Wiser, calmer, stronger. It's the quiet conviction that you can face anything, because you already have. And maybe that's what true confidence has always been. Not the roar of certainty, but the whisper of faith. Faith that you'll figure it out. Faith that you'll find your way. Faith that whatever happens next, you'll meet it with grace and grit. So breathe, feel the weight of your fears, your past, your uncertainty, and then release it. You've carried enough. You don't have to chase confidence anymore. You've earned it. You've built it. Piece by piece, choice by choice, moment by moment. And now it's simply who you are. Unshakable. Grounded. Alive. You've walked through fear. You've embraced the unknown. You've let go of who you were to become, who you're meant to be. And when you walk out into the world tomorrow, whether it's into a boardroom, a conversation, or silence, you'll carry that invisible weight of peace that others will feel before you even speak. That's not arrogance, that's arrival. Because confidence isn't something you show, it's something you are, unshakable, forever.